Brought to you by iOCO, Africa's leading integrated technology services company. It's time for Tech Talk. Now in e-commerce, e-commerce giant Amazon launched in South Africa about a year ago. The group has found that everyday consumable items are popular in the local market and has therefore doubled down on its everyday items strategy by expanding its product offering to groceries, pet food, and vitamins and supplements. Business Day's Mudiwa Kavaza joins us with more detail and his assessment of how well it's working for the company. Mudiwa, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. Now, as mentioned at the top, Amazon has been in the SA market for just over a year. I guess before we, look at its strategy moving forward, let's reflect on how it's fared, the 12 months that was.
So it looks like, they've done okay, over the last 12 months. And it's actually quite interesting to think about the fact that they've only been in the country for such a short time. Now that they're here, it almost feels as if they've just been part of the ecosystem, this entire time. When we were talking to their regional head for Sub-Saharan Africa, Robert Kuhn, recently, he was actually saying that, they've been seeing good growth momentum, on the platform, seeing, South Africans becoming a bit easier, in terms of being familiar with the platform. One of the pointed things that we asked him is, listen, when we think of Amazon, you think Amazon.com, but there's actually a bit of a separation between Amazon.com and Amazon.co.za. Same
South African?
Yes, same credentials, right? However, you have access to a different selection of goods and services. What you're going to find on the SA store is different from what you're going to find on the .com or the global, store. And it's little things like that people have to get, themselves around. I remember when I first logged on to Amazon.co.za, that was the first thing that, caught me. I thought it was just the same the same site, and it started making sense. I'd always known there was a .co.uk and all of that stuff, but now that there was,
so it applies to all the countries it operates in.
Yeah. So now that there was .co.za, it almost, that light bulb goes off like, okay, fine. There's actually a separation. There's a global store, and then they have individual country, type of operations. And little things like that, you need to educate the consumer around how the platform works. Okay,
so .co.za, that's where we are seeing the high demand for those everyday grocery items, right? Walk me through that. Where are we seeing the demand? Is it more of, the perishable items, the non-perishable items? Also, when I was listening to the podcast, I didn't know that they do same-day deliveries.
Yeah. So my assessment is that Amazon is basically catching up to where the South African e-commerce market is. When you see the rise of Checker 6060, when you see the way that Pick n Pay has incorporated online delivery, the likes of Woolies, there's no major retailer right now that doesn't have an offering of some sort. You're seeing it on the grocery side, you're seeing it on the clothing side, but when it comes to groceries, all you need to do here in Johannesburg is to go into any Checkers and you see all of these shoppers just walking around, with the scanners. I look for the scanners and I know that's someone who's shopping on
for someone else,
So someone who's shopping on behalf of someone else. So as much as South Africa has a huge shopping center and mall culture, groceries and the convenience of having your stuff delivered to you has become more and more of a mainstay in South Africa, and we're seeing Amazon catching up, to where the market is. So I think they've, they first noted this around sometime last year. That's end of last year in the fourth quarter, if I remember correctly. That's when they first said, okay, everyday items. And they were just pointing at, normal groceries. now they've been, bedding down to say, okay, there are some specific areas. And I remember a conversation that we had with the likes of Mars. Mars is one of the big manufacturers of certain goods in South Africa that we see on our shelves in shops.
Okay.
The likes of a lot of gum, a lot of pet food, and they were telling us that you see a lot of popularity around some of the cat food that they have, some of the pet food. So it's no surprise that the likes of Amazon are also seeing growth in some of those areas as well.
It's interesting to see, because when I thought of Amazon, I thought, one of its biggest competition here at home would be Takealot. And not necessarily the likes of ShopRite, the likes of Spar or Pick n Pay.
Yeah, but I think that also shows you where we are, right?
Yeah.
And interestingly, Takealot is still a measure of competition for Amazon on that front, right? Because when you look at Mr. D, right?
Okay.
Mr. D as well as Uber Eats have been seeing a lot of growth on groceries and everyday items, where in addition to the food deliveries, you can actually go onto either of these platforms and get them to go and buy certain grocery items for you. Especially after hours, they tend to go to petrol forecourts. You quickly need some toothpaste or whatever it is. These guys are, offering that. So I would actually say that they are competing,
with the likes of a Takealot.
the likes of a Takealot. Except that on the likes of a Takealot, when you go to Mr. D, which Takealot owns, you're trying to get something like now. In the next maybe an hour and that type of thing, which is why I think Amazon has now got an offering where I think he said as long as you order before 2 p.m., they will make sure that it's delivered to you by 8 p.m. because these are the types of things that they're competing against.
And that was going to be my next question then. How is it trying to then, if it's competing on the level of the likes of Mr. D, the likes of Uber Eats, how even the Checker 6060, where you're getting your groceries within an hour. How are they competing on that sense? But okay, now we know. Walk me through how Amazon is navigating the South African landscape when it comes to delivery, especially in, townships, rural areas. I mean, there's some places here at home where you can't even locate them on a GPS.
Actually, for a long time, that was actually thought to be one of the main reasons why Amazon largely stayed out of the African market as a whole. Was just the simple issue of addressing. Right? Addressing and logistics, right? Because if you're promising same-day delivery in the United States, in Europe and others, then you need the same offering here. And that's one of the big things that Naspers has always been shouting on top of the mountain about Takealot, to say we have developed the logistics infrastructure in South Africa. We understand our market, and we know how to get things to the most remote parts of this country. Wherever you are in South Africa, we will come there, we'll come and find.
I must say that's true, because I make, I'll order items for my parents in Free State. And they will make it there.
They'll make it there, yeah. So for now, I think that's the part that the capability that Amazon is still building out. They've actually been, doing a number of things. They do work with a third party provider that helps them, on the logistics, the actual deliveries. And then they've also instituted, once again, another thing that's been happening in South Africa is pickup points. I understand that they have about 4,300 pickup points in South Africa, if my numbers are correct. So they have been instituting, those types of things to get things, to people. But I would say that at least for now, Takealot is still beating them when it comes to that ability to just go anywhere in this country.
And let's talk about, third-party sellers on the platform. Who are they working with there? Are they targeting, small business? I'm just thinking of how, we've been touting the small businesses, entrepreneurs as, something that can unlock the economy, the potential of the economy. So who are they working with on their platform?
So 60% of Amazon's sales globally actually run through third-party sellers. You've got Amazon's own stock of goods that are on the platform, and then you've got third-party sellers. Same strategy here in South Africa. So the pet food that we're talking about, the groceries, the vitamins and supplements, a lot of that is Amazon's own stock.
Okay.
But on the same platform, they also have third-party sellers that are, selling some of the, some of the same stuff, and they'll be encouraging those third-party sellers to get into some of these markets because they can see from their data that this stuff is actually selling. So it's actually in Amazon's interest to make sure that small businesses do well on its platform, because globally that's the model that has really worked for them, the best. So they were trying to replicate the same thing here. They recently held, their first supplier summit. They got 300 SMEs to come in, for the summit. But my understanding is that they have way more businesses that are selling on the platform. That's one. Two, for a player like Amazon coming in, they need to make sure that they're taking care of those small businesses, because Takealot has been attacked by the Competition Commission in the past to say you guys are unfairly treating the small businesses on your platform. You're muscling them out. You are giving them unfair terms. You're using your market power to bully these small businesses. So if you're Amazon coming into the market, you need to be awake to some of these realities and make sure that you're addressing some of these things so that you don't end up being accused of the same things that Takealot has already been accused of, and especially because Amazon has been accused of those same things
elsewhere.
Yeah.
And we know that the Competition Commission here at home doesn't play, so hey, they must beware. Mudiwa, thanks so much for your time and sharing those insights. That was Business Day's Mudiwa Kavaza. Brought to you by iOCO, Africa's leading integrated technology services company.